Lynn Coffey said she was going to wear a costume today. I think I'd anticipated a different costume. Ah, there they are. So Lynn, of course, is from Love, Virginia, but anybody who does not know Lynn needs to know that her resources are at the library. You can go to the next one. She has a philosophy, and I'd like you, before she comes up, I would just like you to look at her philosophy in this simple slide. It says so much about the hard work that she has done and is still doing. Peter, the next. Now, resources. We'll be talking a lot about the Historical Society, but Lynn has done so much work with groups like the Historical Society, like the fact that all of her Backroads magazines are at the library, the fact that she's now doing work with Crozet Gazette, the fact that all of this is now going to be more easily accessible. What you're seeing here is a link to that many stories at the Nelson County Historical Society. That link will take you to the stories, and you get to read them, and you can do that from home. Peter, so Lynn, this is the background of Lynn, and talks about Backroads, 300 issues. And believe it or not, they're in places like the Folk Life Museum of the Smithsonian. They're at the Library of Virginia. They're at the Virginia Historical Society. They're in the Nelson Library. The Waynesboro Library created an index. It's not searchable yet. It was created probably a decade ago. But all of the issues, 300 of them, are in those different places, special collections at UVA. So Lynn is another one who will go to Woody's list. As you see, we're going to need a book for all the people who deserve to be on Woody's list. I want Lynn to have this rostrum, and if you all have never had the opportunity of listening to a story or reading a book or been interviewed, now that's a real treat, been interviewed. And Lynn, please come up. But how many interviews do you think you have done?
I don't have any idea. Thousands.
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 Please come up.
I'm going to take my watch out because I tend to go over 5 minutes. So thank you for the opportunity to come. I'm not very good on just regular history. I'm Lynn Coffey, and I represent the mountain people of Nelson County. They are very special people to me, and they should be very special people to everybody. They are a dying breed, and there's still a few of them left, but can you all hear me okay? Okay. I'll give you a little background. I'm sure it's gone. But I grew up in South Florida. How I got here is a very interesting story. When I lived in Florida, my parents were city people. I had no background in anything Appalachian at all. However, my parents always wondered why their only daughter always was saving her allowance to buy antique oil lamps and Crocs and things from the 1800s, and they wanted to know why. I had no idea why. I just had that natural bent to the 1800s. All the books that I read, 1800s, all the early things. And I really believe that God does give everybody a gift, talents that you are supposed to use to do the job that He wants you to do on the years that you have on earth. And so I didn't know what my talents were. I didn't think I had any other than I had that bent toward the early things. And so when I was 7 years old, I told my mother, I said, when I can drive, when I get big enough and I can drive, I am going to move to the mountains and live in a log cabin and live a very simple life. A horse, chickens, that's all I wanted. And 25 years later, I moved to the little mountaintop village of Love, Virginia. Does anybody know where Love is? There you go. There's a few people. It parallels the Blue Ridge Parkway at milepost 16. There's no businesses there, a couple of rental cabins, but mostly it's just mountain people. And I moved right in the middle of all of the older mountain people. Oh, I thought I was in heaven. I thought, oh, I came home to a home I had never known. And so the first year, I moved here in 1980, and the first year I walked all over the mountains to these older people's houses. And it's a wonder they didn't say, "Scram, kid," because I pestered them to death. But the first year I was here, 1980, and into 1981, I told him, can you show me how to do what you're doing? And I learned how to make homemade sauerkraut in a crock. And nobody else was that interested in doing that. But I was really interested. They taught me how to hunt for morel mushrooms and ginseng and plant by the signs. I can't even explain it. I know it works and I do it, but I don't know how to tell you. I get the Crozet Gazette next month, and I did an article on that. That's all I can tell you. And so I did all these things, and the first year they taught me their way of life. The second year, God just impressed on me, and I don't know how this really works. It's just by His power. He gave me the desire to start a little newspaper. And I was a housewife, high school education, no experience in doing, I didn't even have any TV. I was just sort of a plain person. But I just decided I'd try to write this little newspaper called Backroads, and only concentrate on the mountain people and what they did, their culture. And I remember a girlfriend, her husband said to me, "So you're not going to do any current news?" And I said, "No, only like 100-year-old news, And he said, "Well, that's not going to go." He said, "That's not going to," he said, "I give it 6 months, tops." And he said, "It'll be done." Well, 25 years later, every time I would see him, I would just smile. And he'd say, "Go ahead and say it." I said, no, I won't say it, but you know what I'm thinking. So I want to say that the media has given the mountain people, not just in Nelson, but all the mountain people, a really bad rap. They portray them as uneducated, the Hollywood hillbilly stereotype. And after living with them for almost 45 years, right in the middle of them, I can tell you they are anything But I have found the mountain people, and everybody that, when I moved here, I moved it to Virginia in 1969 to Chesterfield County, and then I started to camp up here, and I moved, like I said, in 1980. And I have found that the mountain people are giving, they are generous, they are loyal, they are smart, and they're very humorous. And I will tell one story because this is what I mean by their humor. There was a lady by the name of Lynn Coffey, and when I married my husband, I became everybody's cousin. And so Lynn Coffey was related to us. I met her when she was 99, and I started to interview her all the time. At 102, she was still smoking a little corncob pipe. Every time I saw her, she was smoking that little pipe. And she smoked that old Mickey Twist tobacco, that twisted tobacco. It was really strong. And so I told her one day, I asked her, I said, when did you start smoking? And she said, well, she said, honey, she said, when I was 6 years old, I had the tizzic, childhood asthma, which usually if you have asthma as a child, you'll grow out of it. And obviously she did. And she said, my mother took me to the doctor, and the doctor told her if I would smoke a pipe and breathe that nice warm air into my lungs, that it would heal me. And so I said, well, Miss Teresi, didn't anybody tell you that smoking was bad for your health? And she'd rock a little bit, and she'd puff a little bit, and she said, yeah, honey. She said, but all them people are dead now. She outlived everybody, and she was still smoking that pipe. The mountain people, they're naturally shy. They're a humble, shy people, but they have a lot to offer in the way of self-sufficiency and sustainability. Before that phrase was ever coined, they were living it. And they had a little ditty that they taught me when I came. I want you to listen to this. I'm going to say it twice because it's worth listening to. Use it up, wear it out. Make it do or do without. They lived with nothing, I can tell you. They lived with nothing, and yet they were so happy. And they had time to sit on the back porch and visit with their neighbors. They had time for you. If somebody's barn burnt down, they had time to go rebuild it. It wasn't the me. It was us. So use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And so that, to me, is what the mountain people represent, and I am so glad. They are God's gift to me. For 43 years that I've been here now, they were, and they still are, God's gift to me, and I am thankful for the opportunity to come and share them with you. So, thank you.